Hello everyone, and welcome to Art Lesson 1, Exploring Line. In today's video, we will be going over some drawing exercises to help strengthen your observational drawing skills and help you to be more confident in your mark making. For this very first exercise, all you'll need is some paper and a pencil. So now, if I were to ask you to draw a house, you might draw something that looks like this. Maybe it has some windows. If I were to ask you to draw a tree, it might look like this. You might add a few branches. If I were to ask you to draw a heart, it would look like this, or an eye, it might look like this, or whatever. Now, these pictures are not how houses, trees, hearts, or eyes really look. These are symbols that most people would be able to identify in looking at. But nobody's gonna look at that tree and think, wow, what a beautiful photograph of a tree. They're gonna see that and recognize that it's a tree, but a little cartoon version of one. So the first step in learning how to draw is actually learning how to see. And this can be so incredibly difficult. If we were to sit down and draw a tree, we might be looking at a tree right in front of us, but our brain is going to tell us to draw this symbol and not what we're actually looking at. So today we're going to try to do an exercise that'll trick the brain into actually looking at what we're trying to draw instead of drawing the symbol. So this very first exercise we're going to do is called a blind contour. The word contour simply means an outline of something, so we're going to do a line drawing without actually looking at the paper as we draw. So to keep it simple, we're going to be drawing our hand. And for the sake of staying in the frame of the video, I'm going to be looking at my hand right here and drawing it right here. But if you're at home, I think having the hand and then the paper right next to each other is going to be way too hard. It'll be way too tempting to peek at what you're drawing. So I would suggest turning completely away from your picture as you draw so you don't get the temptation to peek and look at what you're drawing. So to do this exercise, I'm going to move my eyes very, very slowly, and I'm going to study this outside edge of my hand. And I really want you to take your time with this. I want you to be spending at least 10 minutes on this picture. I want you to move very, very slowly, and I want you to move your eyes along the edge of your hand and notice every single crease in your skin, every single little bump and wrinkle as you move over nails and around your whole hand. So it will take a long time. And as you're drawing, remember, do not look at your drawing the entire time. And this is so much harder than it seems to not take a peek. But nobody is going to see this picture. You're not going to be framing it and putting it up in your house. So don't be worried. They never come out looking like a beautiful hand drawing. That's not the point. So don't feel any pressure at all in trying to make this look good. Just spend the time and really study every single line of your hand. And so I'm going to do that now. All right, here is my beautiful finished piece. As you can see, this is not an accurate representation of a realistic hand. I'm sure you guys noticed as you were drawing, I almost came off the edge here. I could feel that edge coming and I tried to kind of scoot it back in. Maybe you were surprised that your picture was really, really teeny and cramped in a little corner. Maybe you filled up the page. Maybe you went off the page. Interesting things can happen when you don't look at your page as you draw. But my hand certainly got wider. My fingers got a little shorter. There's some open gaps in there, but it was a really good chance for me to really study and look at my hand without being worried at all what my picture looked like. So anytime you notice yourself getting really stuck and drawing what you think you know without actually looking at your reference, try a blind contour exercise. They're fun, no pressure, they're pretty quick, and it'll really help you to focus in on your reference and look at what you're seeing instead of what you think you're seeing. So for this next exercise, we're going to need a dry erase marker and a hard transparent material. This is a sheet of plexiglass that I picked up from a hardware store for pretty cheap, and it's a little banged up as I've used it a lot before. But if you have an old picture frame with a pane of glass in it that's laying around, you're welcome to use that. Just be careful of the sharp edges. So this exercise is going to help you with drawing references from real life, because when you have an object sitting right in front of you, it can be really difficult to imagine it flat on a two-dimensional surface. And so that's why it's usually a lot easier to work with a photo reference, because the image has already been flattened. That distance has already been taken out of the equation, and you can see it, and you just have to, follow the outline of the picture. But when you're working in real life, you have to deal with foreshortening and different things like that. So for this exercise, I'll just be drawing my hand once more. And if I weren't really looking at my hand and I was just drawing a hand from memory, I'd probably draw something like this. Now, at a passing glance, that looks relatively like a hand. If you showed this picture to people, they'd probably be able to tell you what it was. But that and that don't really actually look like each other. So I am going to put this on top of my hand, and I'm going to choose a more complicated pose. Not just this, because this would just be, I could just trace my hand if I wanted that. But I'm going to curl my fingers. I'm going to do some foreshortening, something that would be a challenge to draw. And like with the blind contour exercise, I'm going to pay attention to every wrinkle and crease. And with a dry erase marker, I am going to trace everything that I see very slowly and very carefully. And of course, a dry erase marker is much thicker than a pencil is, so there's going to be a lot of details you won't be able to get. And because of having two eyes, if you close one or the other, you'll get kind of a different view. And because of the distance between the glass and the object, there will be mess ups and there will be things that don't completely line up and inconsistencies and stuff. But that's okay. We're going for just the overall gist here. So I will do that. All right, here is the finished drawing on the piece of plexiglass. Now it is just a line drawing, pretty simple, pretty quick. It doesn't look like too much right now, but we can see how much more accurate it is in comparison to this first little drawing that I did. And this is certainly not to say that you have to draw everything like this with just one, solid outline around it. I know I certainly don't draw anything that way, but this is a really good exercise in just trying to get you to see objects in a different way, to not look at them as symbols, but to look at them and to really notice the angles and the shapes that make things up, to break down complicated shapes into simple lines. I think I would be pretty intimidated in just looking at this hand and trying to figure out how to draw it. But when I do this simple line drawing, it breaks it down and it's suddenly a very manageable thing. I look at this drawing and I think I could copy it onto a piece of paper pretty easily, where looking at that, I feel like it would be a pretty big challenge. So this is a great exercise to try if you're feeling intimidated by drawing objects from real life. You can hold the plastic up to different things you see around and do a quick tracing onto the plexiglass, and then set it down next to you and transfer that drawing onto the piece of paper. All right, there's one more exercise for you guys to try if you want to take this a step further. I want you to find a drawing that you really like from any artist that you like anywhere online. just something that is black and white and fairly simple, just so you don't get overwhelmed getting into this and give up halfway through. But I want you to copy this picture, and I want you to copy it upside down. And that might seem like a really bizarre thing to do, but when it's right side up like this, your brain starts to identify everything. This is a little drawing from an illustration that I'm working on right now, but looking at it this way, you can identify this is a person, this is a hand, these are eyes, that's a nose, that's hair. Everything is something, and your brain has a symbol for all of it, whether you realize it or not. You know what eyes are supposed to look like, you know what hair is supposed to look like, you know what a nose is supposed to look like. And so when you try drawing it, you're kind of having a battle between what you see and what your brain is telling you you're seeing. So if you take this picture and you turn it upside down and you start to draw it, you begin to just notice the shapes of the lines and the angles that they're going. It stops having context and it just becomes abstract. And it's surprising, but you can actually copy it so much more accurately when you're looking at it abstractly instead of looking at it like objects. So if you find a picture you really like and you copy it upside down, I think you'll be really amazed when you finish it and you flip it around at how accurately you've portrayed the picture. I know the first time that I tried this, it completely blew my mind. Anytime I tried copying pictures before, I would start at one side, and then when I got somewhere else where lines were supposed to meet up, they were completely off, and everything just kind of fell apart. But when I tried it upside down, everything just came together and it matched, and it was something that was really, really cool. So I challenge you guys to try that. And that's all I have for you this week. Thank you so much for watching. I hope some of this helped and gave you some good ideas. And have fun drawing.